When patience runs out, the massive viewing port of Titan Station stretched across the entire wall, displaying the rings of Saturn in all their ancient glory. Alina Vasquez stood before it, her reflection barely visible against the cosmic backdrop. 18 months. 18 long months of sitting at polished tables, listening to alien voices discuss humanity's future as if humans were children who couldn't speak for themselves. She adjusted her simple blue, diplomatic uniform and checked her chronometer. Another session would begin in 10 minutes. Another day of being told what humanity could and couldn't do by beings who had never walked on Earth's soil or felt rain on their faces. The stellar assembly chamber buzzed with activity as delegates from 47 different species prepared for the morning session. Alina walked through the circular hall, noting how the various alien representatives clustered together, whispering in their native languages. The Vorthok delegation, with their gleaming chitinous shells and compound eyes, dominated one corner. Their clicking mandibles created a constant background noise like typing on old keyboards. Empress Zixthera. The Vorthok leader stood nearly 8 feet tall. Her emerald carapace caught the artificial light as she gestured with 4 arms, speaking rapidly to her advisors. Alina had learned to read Vorthok's body language over the months. The rapid antenna twitching meant agitation or excitement near the central platform. The Zilani representatives floated in their environmental suits. These crystalline beings communicated through light patterns that danced across their translucent bodies. Elder Frithinel, their chief negotiator, pulsed with deep purple hues, which Alina knew indicated deep concentration or concern. The most unusual delegates were the Thurvians, gaseous beings contained within specially designed mechanical bodies. Senator Velther S., artificial form, stood 7 feet tall with a humanoid shape that housed swirling clouds of sentient gas. When they spoke, their voice emerged from speakers with an oddly melodic quality. Alina took her designated seat at the human delegation table. Unlike the elaborate floating platforms and custom-built furniture of the other species, the human section consisted of simple chairs and a basic table. The message was clear: humans were temporary guests, not permanent members. Her aide, Lieutenant Commander James Wright, slid into the seat beside her. His military bearing and crisp uniform reflected his background as a former naval officer turned diplomatic security specialist. Alina appreciated his calm presence during these increasingly frustrating sessions. "Any word from Earth Command?" Alina asked quietly. "President Martinez sends her regards and reminds you that you have full authority to make decisions as you see fit," James replied. "The Joint Chiefs are standing by for whatever happens." "Whatever happens," Alina repeated, softly. She suspected today would test that authority. The session began with the traditional recitation of the Confederation Charter, read in 47 different languages. Alina had memorized the human portion months ago. "We gather in the spirit of cooperation and mutual understanding, seeking harmony among the stars." The irony wasn't lost on her. Empress Zixthera rose first, her mechanical translator converting her clicking speech into standard galactic common. "As fellow beings of the Confederation, we convene today to address the continuing concerns regarding the human species' integration into our alliance." Alina felt her jaw tighten. Integration. As if humanity were a problem to be solved, rather than a civilization to be welcomed. The Vorthok Collective has completed its analysis of human technological capabilities, the Empress continued. "While impressive, certain aspects of human innovation present potential risks to galactic stability." Here it comes, Alina thought. The same arguments they'd been making for over a year. Specifically, human faster-than-light travel exceeds safety parameters established by the Confederation. Their vessels achieve speeds that could disrupt established trade routes and military patrol patterns. "We propose that humanity limit their engine output to no more than 60% of current capability." Elena's stylus snapped in her grip. 60%. They wanted to cripple human starships, making them slower than most alien vessels. It would turn humans into second-class citizens of space, dependent on other species for rapid transportation. Elder Frithon's crystalline form shifted to bright yellow, indicating agreement as they rose to speak. "The Zilani confluence concurs with our Vorthok allies. Additionally, human medical research has progressed at an alarming rate. Their genetic therapies and life extension treatments could destabilize population dynamics across the galaxy. Holographic display above the chamber lit up with statistics, human lifespans, birth rates, medical breakthroughs, all presented as problems rather than achievements. We request that humanity share all medical research with the Confederation Medical Board for approval before implementation. This includes surrendering current treatments for galactic oversight. Alina stood slowly. The chamber fell silent as all eyes turned to her. Elder Frithinel, are you suggesting that humans should die of diseases we can cure simply because other species haven't developed the same treatments? The crystalline being pulsed orange. Uncertainty. We suggest careful regulation to ensure galactic stability. Stability. Alina let the word hang in the air. Senator Velthor, I believe your people had something to add? The Thurvian's mechanical form straightened, gases swirling more rapidly within its containment. Indeed, Ambassador Vasquez. The Thurvian Republic has grave concerns about human psychological profiles. Your species demonstrates concerning levels of individual initiative and competitive behavior. Alina felt heat rising in her cheeks. Consider individual initiative a problem when it leads to unpredictable actions that affect other species? Yes. Humans have a documented history of aggressive expansion and territorial disputes. While you have shown remarkable restraint in recent decades, we believe preventive measures are necessary. The senator paused, letting the implication sink in. We propose that human colonies be placed under Confederation oversight, with mandatory psychological evaluation and modification programs to reduce aggressive tendencies. The chamber erupted in discussion as delegates whispered among themselves. Alina heard fragments in various languages, some supportive, others uncertain, but none spoke in humanity's defense. She looked at James, who had gone very still beside her. His hand rested near his sidearm, though she knew he would never draw. It here? The gesture was unconscious. The reaction of a soldier hearing his species described as dangerous animals in need of neutering. Psychological modification, Alina repeated, her voice carrying clearly across the chamber. You want to alter human brains to make us more compliant. More cooperative, Empress Six Thura corrected. More suited to galactic civilization. Surely you understand that some adaptation is necessary for the greater good. Alina stood silently for a long moment, looking around the chamber at beings she had spent 18 months trying to befriend. Species she had worked with, shared meals, with even laughed with during informal gatherings. Oh, they sat in judgment of her entire species, demanding that humans be surgically or chemically altered to meet their approval. She thought of her daughter Maria, who would graduate from the academy next year with dreams of exploring the galaxy. She thought of Dr. Elizabeth Foster, whose medical research had saved millions of lives across dozens of worlds. She thought of Captain Robert Kane, whose merchant fleet had kept outer colonies supplied during the Rigel crisis. All of them, apparently. Too dangerous to exist as nature had made them. Alina began collecting her papers with calm, deliberate movements. The sound of rustling documents seemed abnormally loud in the hushed chamber. Ambassador Vasquez. Empress Zixthera, translator conveyed confusion. We have not concluded our proposals. Yes, you have. Alina closed her briefcase with a soft click. The United Earth Alliance withdraws from Confederation membership negotiations, effective immediately. The silence that followed was profound. Even the constant clicking of Vorthok mandibles stopped. Alina stood and nodded to James, who immediately rose beside her. Ladies, gentlemen, and beings of various classifications, she said formally, it has been ... educational. She turned and walked toward the exit, her footsteps echoing in the vast chamber. Behind her, chaos erupted as delegates shouted in dozens of languages, demanding explanations, making threats, pleading for reconsideration. Alina didn't look back. In the corridor outside, James caught up with her quick pace. Ma'am, Earth Command should be notified immediately. Already done, Alina replied, tapping her personal communicator. I sent the withdrawal notification. Before I stood up, President Martinez will have it within the hour. They reached the human delegation's quarters, where staff members looked up with curious expressions. Word of the dramatic exit was already spreading through the station's communication networks. "Pack everything," Alina announced. "We're going home." "All of it?" asked Dr. Sarah Kim, the delegation's scientific advisor. "Everything. Every piece of equipment, every research file, every cup and plate. I want this place cleared of human presence within 6 hours." As her staff scattered to begin the evacuation, Alina stood in her private office, looking out at Saturn's rings. Her personal communicator chimed with incoming messages, first dozens, then hundreds. Alien diplomats demanding meetings, human. Officials requesting clarification, news services seeking statements. She ignored them all. Instead, she opened a secure channel to Earth and spoke directly to the president. "Madam President, the aliens don't want partners. They want pets. Well-behaved, neutered pets who do as they're told and never bark too loudly." President Martinez's voice came back clear and steady. "What do you need, Alina?" "No, time and trust. We're coming home, and we're bringing everything with us." "Everything." Alina smiled grimly as she watched alien security forces gathering outside the human quarters, clearly confused about how to respond to this unprecedented situation. "Everything. Madam President, it's time they learned what they're really losing." When the Foundation crumbles, Dr. Marcus Chen stood on the observation deck of the orbital platform above Kepler 438b, watching atmospheric processors work their slow magic on the planet below. Massive machines, each the size of a city block, pumped carefully designed gases into the alien atmosphere. The result was a gradual transformation that would make the world habitable for multiple species within a century. His life's work. 15 years of research, 3 years of construction, and now 2 years of successful operation. The Zelani Confluence had praised the project as a triumph of interspecies cooperation. The terraforming process was ahead of schedule and under budget. His risk communicator buzzed with an encrypted message from Earth. Marcus read it twice and stood quietly for several minutes, absorbing the implications. Ambassador Vasquez had withdrawn from the Confederation. All human personnel were to return to Earth immediately, bringing any critical technology with them. Marcus looked down at the planet again. Without the atmospheric processors, Kepler 438b would remain a toxic wasteland. With them, it would become home to nearly 50 million beings from 12 different species. Vorthok agricultural specialists were preparing vast underground farms. Thurvian research stations dotted the planned continents, all of it dependent on technology that existed nowhere else in the galaxy. Dr. Angela Santos approached from behind, her footsteps silent on the metal decking. As his chief engineering officer, she had overseen the construction of every processor on the planet's surface. "I got the message too," she said quietly. 17 atmospheric processors, Marcus said, still watching the planet. Each one containing technology the Confederation can't replicate. Quantum molecular atmospheric manipulators using principles we discovered by accident during the Mars terraforming project. "They'll figure it out eventually," Angela replied. "Maybe in 50 years? Maybe 100? Maybe never. We're not just talking about engineering here. We're talking about an entirely new understanding of how to manipulate matter at the quantum level while working with biological systems. The Zelani are crystalline beings. They don't think in terms of organic chemistry. The Vorthok are excellent with large-scale engineering, but struggle with quantum mechanics. The via NS ... double quotes Marcus shrugged. They're gaseous. They understand fluid dynamics better than anyone, but solid matter engineering isn't their strength." Angela nodded toward the planet. 50 million beings are counting on this project. 50 million beings whose governments just decided my species needs to be surgically altered to be acceptable.
Ow.
Marcus's voice carried a bitterness that surprised him. He had always prided himself on being above politics, focused purely on the science. But the message from Earth had included details of the Confederation's demands: genetic modification, psychological alteration, reduction of human capabilities to make other species more comfortable. "Orders are orders," Angela said, but her tone suggested she understood his conflict. Marcus activated his command console and began typing. Emergency shutdown protocol, he announced to the Planetary Operations Center. All atmospheric processors to standby mode in 6 hours. Prepare for equipment retrieval. The response was immediate panic. Zelani Supervisor Lithran's crystalline form appeared on the communication screen, pulsing rapid orange and red patterns that indicated extreme distress. Dr. Chen, you cannot halt the atmospheric processors. The chemical balance is delicate. If you stop now, the planet will become toxic again within weeks. I'm not stopping them, Marcus replied calmly. I'm taking them home. Taking them? You cannot remove the processors. They are built into the planet's infrastructure. Marcus allowed himself a small smile. Actually, Lithran, they're not. Every processor was designed to be modular and removable. I learned that lesson from the Mars project. Never build something you can't take apart and move. The Zelani supervisor's form shifted to deep purple, the color of confusion and growing fear. But the terraforming project will continue when Earth and the Confederation reach a more equitable arrangement. 300 light-years away? Captain Sarah Liu stood on the bridge of the merchant vessel Endeavor, flagship of the human commercial fleet. Around her, the vast cargo bay held containers of rare minerals, foodstuffs, and manufactured goods destined for 17 different star systems. The fleet consisted of 237 vessels. From massive cargo haulers to small courier ships, Sarah had spent 12 years building the commercial fleet from a handful of Earth-based trading vessels into the backbone of intergalactic commerce. Human ships were faster than most alien vessels. Human crews were more reliable than most alien traders. And human logistics software was generations ahead of anything the Confederation used. Half the Confederation's outer colonies depended on human merchants for basic supplies. The other half relied on them for luxury goods and specialized equipment. Without the commercial fleet, dozens of worlds would face shortages within weeks. Her communication officer, Lieutenant Torres, approached with a concerned expression. Captain. Sarah nodded. She had been expecting it since the news of Ambassador Vasquez's withdrawal reached the fleet. How long to gather everyone? Most of the fleet is already in communication range. The furthest vessels are in the Andromeda sector. They'll need 48 hours to reach the rally point, our current contracts. Torres consulted his tablet. 378 active delivery contracts, representing approximately 2.4 billion credits in committed cargo. Our cancellation will violate every one of them. Sarah looked out at the stars, thinking of the alien families. Who were expecting food shipments? The research stations waiting for equipment. The colonies that would run out of medical supplies without human delivery schedules. Then she thought of the Confederation's demands that humans be psychologically modified to reduce their aggressive tendencies. Cancel them all, she said. Issue standard emergency termination notices. Yes. Force majeure clause. Government recall overrides commercial obligations. Captain. The Vorthok Trade Authority alone will file lawsuits claiming billions in damages. Them try collecting from Earth. Sarah activated the fleet-wide communication system. All vessels. This is Captain Leo. You should have received Earth Command's recall order by now. Set course for Sol System immediately. Dump any cargo that will slow your journey. We're going home. On the industrial world of Proxima Centauri. B. Engineer David Park was having the worst day of his professional life. The quantum communication array he had designed and built stretched across 3 continents. A masterpiece of engineering that allowed instantaneous communication between any 2 points in the galaxy. Every government, every corporation, surrounded by displays showing communication traffic across the galaxy, millions of messages flowed through the network every second. Diplomatic communications, commercial transactions, scientific data, personal messages between family members separated by vast distances. The quantum entanglement principles that made it possible were uniquely human discoveries based on research that had taken humanity 3 decades to develop. Sir, his assistant engineer, Maria Santos, approached hesitantly. The Confederation Council is demanding an emergency meeting. They're saying this is an act of war. David almost laughed. War. They wanted to perform brain surgery on every human in the galaxy to make us more cooperative. And now they're worried about war? The Thurvian Senator Velthar is claiming that cutting off communication will cause the collapse of galactic civilization. Maybe it will. David began entering shutdown commands into the central console. Maybe that's exactly what needs to happen. The quantum communication array was more than just a network. It was the nervous system of the Confederation. Without it, the various species would be reduced to slower-than-light communication. Taking months or years to coordinate between distant worlds, trade would slow to a crawl. Scientific research would fragment. Military coordination would become nearly impossible. Beginning systematic shutdown, David announced to his team. Priority 1. Retrieve all quantum cores. Priority 2. Wipe all system databases. Priority 3. Destroy any equipment we can't transport. As the communication array began its shutdown sequence, the effects rippled across the galaxy almost immediately. On Vorthok Prime, military commanders found themselves unable to coordinate with their outer fleets. On Zelen, research institutions lost contact with their experiments on distant worlds. On Thurvion space stations, administrators watched helplessly as their carefully planned logistics networks collapsed, but the most immediate impact was on the Confederation Council itself. With the quantum communication network failing, the various species could no longer coordinate their response to the human withdrawal. What had been a unified alliance began fracturing into isolated groups, each dealing with their own mounting crises. Back on Kepler 438b, the atmospheric processors were already being loaded onto massive human cargo vessels. Dr. Marcus Chen watched as his life's work was carefully disassembled and packed for transport. The Zalani supervisors could only watch, helplessly, as their future home slowly returned to its toxic natural state. Dr. Chen Lithrin approached one final time, its crystalline form now pulsing with deep blue, the color of desperation. Please, we can negotiate. The Confederation will reconsider its demands. Marcus paused in his work. Lithrin, you've been a good colleague, and I consider you a friend, but your government, along with the others, decided that humans are too dangerous to exist as we are, that we need to be changed, modified, controlled. We can't negotiate away that level of contempt. But the project. Millions will die if this world remains uninhabitable. Then perhaps your leaders should have thought of that before they decided to treat my species like defective pets in need of training. Across the galaxy, the human exodus continued. Ships departed from every Confederation world, carrying not just human personnel, but the knowledge and technology that had become integral to galactic civilization. The faster-than-light engines that had revolutionized space travel, the medical treatments that had extended lifespans across multiple species, the agricultural techniques that had ended famines on dozens of worlds. In 72 hours, the Confederation lost not just its human members, but the technological foundation that had made its rapid expansion possible. What remained was a collection of alien species, suddenly discovering how much they had depended on the newcomers they had dismissed as inferior. And in the depths of space, human ships headed home, carrying with them the keys to a galaxy that would never be the same again. When Pride meets reality 3 weeks after the human exodus began, Empress Ixthera stood in the emergency command center on Vorthok Prime, watching her empire crumble in real time. The massive holographic display showed the status of every Vorthok world, and the picture was grim. Red indicators dominated the screen. Failed harvests, broken machinery, communication blackouts, and growing civil unrest. Report, she commanded, her mandibles clicking with barely controlled anger. General Kickstar approached, his scarred carapace bearing the marks of decades of military service. Empress, the situation continues to deteriorate. Without human maintenance, 60% of our mining equipment has failed. The agricultural worlds are facing complete crop failure without human fertilizer synthesis technology. Most critically, our outer colonies have been cut off for 12 days now. What about our own engineers? Surely we can maintain equipment we've been using for years. The equipment was designed and built by humans, Empress, The maintenance manuals are in human languages using human technical concepts. Our engineers are struggling to understand the underlying principles. Zixthera's compound eyes focused on the tactical display. In our military situation, compromised. Human-designed navigation systems are failing across the fleet. Quantum communication, we cannot coordinate with ships beyond our immediate system. The Rigel Sector Patrol reported engine failures on 3 battleships yesterday. The Empress felt a chill run through her exoskeleton. The Vorthok military had been the pride of the Confederation, feared and respected throughout the galaxy. They were revealed as dependent on human technology for basic operations. How long before we have riots? On some worlds, Empress, they've already begun. Similar scenes were playing out across the Confederation. On Zelen, Elder Frithinel watched helplessly as their crystal cities went dark. Zeleny technology was beautiful and sophisticated, but it required precise energy frequencies that only human power generation could provide. Without those frequencies, their cities became nothing more than elaborate sculptures. In Thurvian space, Senator Velthor floated in emergency containment as his mechanical body failed. The complex systems that allowed gaseous beings to interact with solid matter had been designed by human engineers who understood both biological and mechanical principles. Without maintenance, the mechanical bodies were breaking down, trapping their occupants in increasingly unreliable shells. But the most desperate situation was on Kepler 438b, where 50 million beings watched their carefully planned future dissolve into toxic clouds. The planet's atmosphere, partially transformed by human technology, was now unstable and increasingly deadly. Evacuation ships struggled to reach the surface as chemical storms raged across the continents. President Martinez sat in the Oval Office, reviewing intelligence reports from across the Confederation. The Human Intelligence Network, built over decades of cooperation, was still functioning. They knew exactly how badly the aliens were suffering, and the knowledge brought no satisfaction. Madam President, Secretary of State David Chen entered. With a secure tablet, receiving communication requests from every major Confederation government. They want to negotiate. All of them? All of them. The Vorthok Empress has requested an emergency meeting. The Zelani Confluence is offering territorial concessions. The Thurvian Republic is suggesting a complete revision of the Confederation Charter. President Martinez leaned back in her chair. What are they offering? Everything they refused to give us before. Full membership, equal voting rights, unrestricted development rights. The Vorthok are even offering to make Earth a co-capital of the Confederation. Interesting how their tune has changed. The intelligence reports suggest they have weeks, not months, before complete systemic collapse. Some worlds are already in chaos. The president stood and walked to the window, looking out at the carefully maintained gardens of the White House. David, I want you to prepare a response. We'll accept a meeting, but it won't be in some grand council chamber. And it won't be with a delegation, ma'am. They want to talk, they can send one representative, someone with actual authority to make decisions, and they can come here to Earth.
That's
unprecedented, Madam President. No alien leader has ever visited Earth. Well, it's time for some precedents to be broken. The message went out through the few remaining communication channels, and the response was immediate. Within hours, 3 ships had launched from different Confederation worlds, each carrying a leader desperate enough to travel to the home world of the species. They had so recently dismissed. Empress Zixthera arrived first, her ship entering Earth's atmosphere like a falling star. The Vorthok vessel was a masterpiece of engineering, all flowing curves and elegant functionality. But as it landed at Andrews Air Force Base, human technicians noted the scorch marks on its hull and the irregular engine harmonics that suggested multiple system failures. Alina Vasquez met the Empress at the landing pad, accompanied by a small security detail. The alien leader emerged from her ship looking significantly different from the imposing figure who had dominated the Confederation Council. Her emerald carapace was dulled, her movements less confident. More importantly, she was alone. No retinue of advisors, no ceremonial guards, no display of power. Empress Zixthera, Alina said formally. Welcome to Earth. Ambassador Vasquez, the Empress replied, her translator struggling with what sounded like electronic interference. We, the Confederation, requests the honor of meeting with your leadership. Of course, but first I thought you might like to see something. Alina led the Empress to a simple electric vehicle, noting how the alien leader's eyes tracked the effortless technology. They drove through Washington, D.C., past monuments and museums, through neighborhoods where humans lived and worked in apparent harmony despite their aggressive nature. Your cities are peaceful, the Empress observed. Disappointing? Alina asked with a slight smile. Confusing? Our assessments suggested that human urban areas would be violent, chaotic. Instead, they appear orderly, cooperative. Maybe your assessments were wrong about a lot of things. They stopped at a small cafe near the Potomac River, where Alina had arranged to meet with the Empress privately before the formal negotiations. The alien leader looked uncomfortable in the simple human furniture, but she accepted the coffee Alina offered. This is not what I expected, Sixthera said, gesturing with one of her forearms at the casual surroundings. You expected a throne room? Military displays? Intimidation tactics? I expected something more befitting the gravity of our situation. Alina sipped her coffee slowly. Empress, 3 weeks ago, you and your allies decided that humans needed to be surgically modified to be acceptable to galactic civilization. You treated us like dangerous animals that needed to be tamed. Now, you're sitting in a cafe on Earth, drinking coffee, and everything is perfectly civilized? What does that tell you about your assessments? The Empress was quiet for a long moment, her mandibles clicking softly. It tells me that we were, perhaps, hasty in our conclusions. It tells you that you were wrong. It's completely, fundamentally wrong. Your withdrawal has caused considerable disruption. Our withdrawal has revealed the truth. Confederation wasn't a partnership of equals. It was a system where humans did the work and aliens took the credit. Where human innovation kept your civilizations running while you convinced yourselves that you were superior. Alina leaned forward. Okay, Empress, your people are facing starvation. Your military is breaking down. Your colonies are in chaos. And it's not because humans are vindictive or cruel. It's because we were so integrated into your society that you can't function without us. That's not conquest, that's partnership. You threw it away because you were afraid of treating us as equals. What would it take, the Empress asked quietly, for humans to return? Equality. Real equality. It's not the pretense of membership with restrictions and conditions. Not the insulting suggestion that we need to be modified to be acceptable. True partnership. And if we agree to these terms, Lena smiled, then we can start rebuilding. But this time, we build something better. Something based on mutual respect instead of fear. The negotiations that followed were unlike anything in Confederation history. Representatives from all 12 species came to Earth, not as conquerors or benefactors, but as equals seeking partnership. The meetings were held not in grand chambers, but in simple conference rooms with human coffee and pastries instead of elaborate ceremonial foods. The Terra Accords, signed 6 weeks after Elena's walkout from the Confederation Council, established a new framework for interstellar civilization. Humans became full partners in the renamed Galactic Alliance, with equal representation and unrestricted development rights. More importantly, the Accords established principles of mutual respect and cooperation that would prevent any species from being treated as inferior. Dr. Marcus Chen returned to Kepler 438b, where he found the planet's atmosphere had stabilized in a state of toxic chaos. Working with Zelani atmospheric specialists and Thurvian fluid dynamics experts, he began designing a new generation of atmospheric processors, ones that could be maintained and operated by multiple species working together, Captain Sarah. Liu rebuilt the commercial fleet as a joint venture. With human logistics expertise combined with alien manufacturing capabilities and Vorthok engineering prowess, the new fleet was faster, more efficient, and more reliable than anything that had come before. Engineer David Park designed a new quantum communication network that was truly collaborative, with fail-safes and redundancies that prevented any single species from controlling galactic communications. The network was more robust and more secure than his original design. It's precisely because it wasn't dependent on any one group's technology. 1 year after the signing of the Terra Accords, Lena Vasquez stood once again in a diplomatic meeting room, but this time the setting was different. The Galactic Alliance Council chamber was designed with input from all member species, creating a space that felt welcoming to beings of vastly different biologies and cultures. Empress Zixara approached her after the session, moving with the confident grace Alina remembered from their first meetings. Ambassador, I have a confession to make. That cafe where we met, I've been trying to recreate that coffee. My chefs insist they're following the recipe exactly, but it doesn't taste the same, Alina laughed. That's because you're missing the most important ingredient, which is the company you keep while drinking it. The Empress's compound eyes reflected genuine amusement. Would you be willing to share coffee with me again sometime? I'd be honored to. But next time I'll teach you how to make it properly. As Alina watched the various species work together in the council chamber, she reflected on the long journey from that first disastrous meeting to this moment of genuine cooperation. The transformation hadn't been easy. Many aliens struggled to overcome centuries of believing themselves superior to younger species. Some humans harbored resentment about the months of condescending treatment and humiliating demands. But gradually, as the benefits of true partnership became evident, old prejudices began to fade. Dr. Sarah Kim, now the Alliance's chief medical officer, had just announced a breakthrough in cross-species medicine that would have been impossible without collaboration between human research methods. Zilani, crystalline biology understanding, and Thurvian gaseous physiology expertise. The treatment would extend healthy lifespans for all Alliance species by an average of 30%, Captain. Lu's integrated merchant fleet had reduced shipping costs across the galaxy by 40%, while improving delivery times and safety records. The combination of human logistics, Vorthok engineering, and Zilani energy systems had created something greater than the sum of its parts. Most importantly, the new generation of Alliance worlds being terraformed represented a completely different approach to galactic expansion. Instead of species claiming territory for themselves, the worlds were being designed as truly integrated communities where different species could live and work together, each contributing their unique strengths. Ambassador, Elder, Frythanol approached, its crystalline form pulsing with warm golden light, the Zilani expression of contentment and friendship. I wanted to personally thank you for your patience during our transition period. Thank you, Elder. But the credit belongs to all of us. It took courage for you and the other leaders to admit your mistakes and work toward something better. Nevertheless, your decision to walk away rather than accept unequal treatment changed everything. Forced us to confront truths we had been avoiding. Senator Velthar joined the conversation, his mechanical form moving with the smooth precision that indicated his artificial body was functioning perfectly. A testament to the collaborative maintenance programs now standard across the Alliance. Ambassador Vasquez, the Thurvian senator's melodic voice, carried notes of genuine respect. I must admit that our species has learned more about cooperation in the past year than in the previous century. The human concept of win-win negotiations was foreign to us, Alina smiled. Senator, the galaxy is big enough for everyone to prosper. Competition doesn't have to mean conquest, and strength doesn't require making others weak. As the formal session ended, the various delegates didn't immediately retreat to species-specific groups as they had in the old Confederation. Instead, mixed groups formed naturally, Vorthok engineers discussing fusion reactor improvements with human physicists, Zilani artists collaborating with Thurvian musicians on new forms of interdimensional art, human agriculturalists sharing soil enhancement techniques with representatives from the farming worlds. Alina gathered her materials and prepared to leave, but paused at the observation windows that showed the bustling activity of Alliance Station. The massive structure orbited the neutral world of Haven, itself a testament to Alliance cooperation. Human construction techniques had created the basic framework, but every species had contributed essential elements. Vorthok gravitic systems, Zilani energy distribution, Thurvian atmospheric processing, and technologies from 6 other species all working in harmony. More importantly, the station buzzed with integrated activity. Mixed crews operated the ships, Multi-species research teams worked in the laboratories, and the commercial districts served beings from across the galaxy who now saw themselves not as separate civilizations but as partners in a shared future. James Wright approached with the day's intelligence summaries. "Ma'am, I thought you'd want to see the latest economic reports." Alina scanned the documents, noting statistics that would have seemed impossible just a year ago. Interspecies trade had increased by 300%. Scientific collaboration had accelerated research across every field. Military cooperation had eliminated the threat of conflicts that had simmered for decades. "Any problems?" she asked. "Minor ones. Some Regellian pirates have been raiding shipping lanes, but Captain Lu's integrated patrol squadrons are handling it. The usual disputes over mining rights in the Centauri sector, but the new arbitration system is working well. Nothing that threatens the Alliance, the intelligence from outside Alliance space." James's expression grew more serious. "That's the interesting part. 3 independent systems have requested observer status in the Alliance. The Andromedon Coalition wants to establish formal diplomatic relations. Even some of the isolationist species are showing interest in limited cooperation agreements." Alina wasn't surprised. Word of the Alliance's success was spreading throughout the galaxy. Other civilizations were watching a group of species that had nearly destroyed themselves through arrogance and fear transform into the most prosperous and stable region of known space. "Ma'am," James continued, "there's something else. We've received a priority communication from Earth. President Martinez wants to discuss the next phase." "Next phase? The expansion of the Alliance?" "The President thinks we're ready to start actively recruiting new members, rather than just waiting for applications." Alina considered this. The Alliance had spent the past year healing and rebuilding. It had proven that true cooperation between different species was not only possible, but beneficial for everyone involved. Perhaps it was time to share that success with the broader galaxy. "Schedule a meeting with the Alliance Council," she decided. "If we're going to expand, we need to do it the right way. No pressure, no ultimatums, no demands that species change themselves to fit our expectations. Just the same offer we wanted from the beginning." "Exactly. Equal partnership, mutual respect, and the chance to build something better together." As Alina left Alliance Station for her return journey to Earth, she reflected on how much had changed. The galaxy was no longer divided between superior and inferior species, between leaders and followers. Instead, it was becoming a community of partners, each contributing their unique strengths to shared goals. The humans had taught the galaxy a valuable lesson by walking away from an unfair deal. But more importantly, they had shown that true strength came not from dominance but from cooperation, not from making others smaller, but from helping everyone grow. And in the end, that lesson had transformed not just the Alliance, but the very concept of what galactic civilization could become. The future stretched ahead, full of possibilities that could only be achieved by beings working together as equals. It was, Alina reflected, exactly what humanity had hoped for when they first looked up at the stars and dreamed of the day they would walk among them as friends, not servants. The door that had slammed shut in anger had opened again, but this time it revealed a galaxy where respect was given freely, partnerships were built on equality, and no species ever again had to choose between accepting humiliation or walking away alone. Humanity had said no to being treated as less than equals. The galaxy had learned to say yes to something far better than what came before.